Astute Quotations, Part 15. The church says the earth is flat, but I know that it is round, for I have seen its shadow on the moon, and I have more faith in a shadow than in the church. Magellan. Necessity does not submit to debate. Garibaldi. When a man says he approves of something in principle, it means he hasn't the slightest intention of carrying it out in practice. Otto von Bismarck, Prussian statesman. The enemy of a good plan is the dream of a perfect plan. Karl von Clausewitz, author of the classic On War. The side that feels the lesser urge for peace will naturally get the better bargain. Karl von Clausewitz. And by the way, let's suggest that the same principle also applies to the realm of romance. You get the most out of what you need the least. Jane Bryant Quinn, financial journalist. The way you can recognize what you are committed to is by your actual results. John Phillips of the Mamas and the Papas. When you have two alternatives, the first thing to do is look for the third that you didn't think about, the one that doesn't exist. Shimon Peres, former Israeli president. You bring your own weather to the picnic. Mystery writer Harlan Coben. The only occasion when the traditions of courtesy permit a hostess to help herself before a woman guest is when she has reason to believe the food is poisoned. Etiquette writer Emily Post. Be polite to boors, and you'll have boors always around you. Emily Post. I'm coming home to you instead, because they'll all be ugly tonight. Country singer Jerry Lee Lewis. The greater the circle of light, the greater the boundary of darkness by which it is surrounded. Sir Humphrey Davy, chemist and inventor of the miner's safety lamp. The well-mannered man never puts out his hand in greeting until the lady extends hers. This is a test of good breeding that is constantly applied. The first move in the direction of cordiality must come from the lady, the whole code of behavior being based on the assumption that she is the social superior. Sir Humphrey Davy. Early to bed, early to rise makes your girlfriend go out with other guys. Comedian Buddy Hackett. The Bible says, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." Our lives are supposed to be hospitals, not courtrooms. Tammy Faye Baker, former TV evangelist. If you want to win, but think you can't, it's almost certain that you won't win. Mo Norman, Canadian pro golfer. You get a heck of a sound from the church. Can't you hear it in my voice? Muddy Waters. A person may cause evil to others not only by his actions but by his inaction, and in either case he is justly accountable to them for the injury. John Stuart Mill. All things being equal, the simplest explanation tends to be the right one. William of Ockham, from the Middle Ages. That quote is a variation upon this one from Occam, I should say, one that's more famous and has gone down in history by the name Occam's razor, and that's this: among competing hypotheses, the one with the fewest assumptions should be selected. If you think you stink, you probably do. Drummer Buddy Rich. Don't let your mouth write a check that your tail can't catch. Bo Diddley. I opened the door for a lot of people, and they just ran through and left me holding the knob. Bo Diddley. The weakest of all weak things is a virtue that has not been tested in a fire. Mark Twain. Everyone has a plan until they've been hit. Attributed to boxer Joe Louis. The expert in battle would first make himself invincible and then wait for his enemy to expose his vulnerability. Sun Tzu, from The Art of War. The wounded recognize the wounded. Romance writer Nora Roberts. If I'm not writing well, I write through it. I can fix a bad page. I cannot fix a blank one. The mind is an iceberg. It floats with only 1/7 of its bulk above water. Sigmund Freud. Change is easy. Improvement is far more difficult. Ferdinand Porsche, founder of the car company that bears his name. If one does not fail at times, then one has not challenged himself. Ferdinand Porsche. Worry affects the circulation, the heart, the glands, the whole nervous system. I have never known a man who died from overwork, but many who died from doubt. Charles Mayo, surgeon and co-founder of the Mayo Clinic. Should you desire the great tranquility, prepare to sweat. Haquin, 1686 to 1769. Raise the sail with your stronger hand. Japanese proverb, meaning go with your strengths. A flute without holes is not a flute. A donut without a hole is a Danish. Chevy Chase, from Caddyshack. When witnesses concoct lies, they often miss the obvious. Mystery writer John Grisham. Definition of law school: the great American babysitter for directionless postgrads. John Grisham. The greatest misfortune of all is not to be able to bear misfortune. Bias of Priene, 6th century BC, one of the 7 sages of Greece. In a fight, technique is always a better asset than strength. David Lawrence, boxing coach, Gleason's Gym, Brooklyn, New York. Society is founded upon cloth. Thomas Carlyle, Scottish essayist. Never stand and take a charge. Charge them too. Nathan Bedford Forrest, Civil War general. Get there first with the most men. Nathan Bedford Forrest. They lead only as the carved wooden figurehead leads the ship. Lawrence Peter, Canadian educator and author. And then his famous one. In a hierarchy, every employee tends to rise to his level of incompetence. From his book, The Peter Principle. If the populace knew with what idiocy they were ruled, they would revolt. Charlemagne. The devil made me do it. Comedian Flip Wilson. Those who fawn upon the great are overbearing to their inferiors. Herbert Spencer. We bought the son of a bitch, but he didn't stay bought. Henry Clay Frick, American industrialist, regarding Theodore Roosevelt. I can frighten or buy 99 out of 100 men. Huey Long, former governor of Louisiana. On the most exalted throne in the world, nothing but our arse. Montaigne. I needed the goodwill of the legislatures of 4 states. I formed the legislative bodies with my own money. I found that it was the cheaper way. Robber Baron J. Gould, 1836 to 1892. Young people must break machines to learn how to use them. Get another one made. Henry Cavendish, 1731 to 1810, physicist and chemist, upon being told that a student just broke a piece of expensive equipment. Nothing circulates so rapidly as a secret. Letitia Elizabeth Landon, from her novel Romance and Reality, 1831. You specialize in something until someday you discover that it is specializing in you. Arthur Miller. A certain excessiveness seems a necessary element in all greatness. Surgeon Harvey Cushing, 1869 to 1939. Fleets cannot operate without bases. John Lejeune, Marine Corps General. We are surrounded. That simplifies the problem. Chesty Puller, Marine Corps General. You bet your sweet Bippy, from Rowan Martin's Laugh-In. The vice lies not in entering the bordello, but in not coming out. Aristippus, 4th century BC. I don't sell cars, I sell engines. The cars I throw in for free. Enzo Ferrari. Aerodynamics are for people who can't build engines. Enzo Ferrari. Success is 99% failure. Soichiro Honda. Life is never quite like the brochure. Chuck Lorre, television producer. Why, I'll just go on right on managing him. Colonel Tom Parker, manager for Elvis Presley, when asked what he'd do now that Elvis had died. You've got to capture an audience. You don't go out there and just sing or just play. If you can't capture an audience, you may as well not be out there. Country singer Roy Acuff. Many a bum show has been saved by the flag. Broadway impresario George M. Cohan. If you have a weak candidate and a weak platform, wrap yourself up in the American flag and talk about the Constitution. Matt Quay, Pennsylvania political boss, 1886. The creed of the Inland Revenue is simple. If we can bring one little smile to one little face today, then somebody's slipped up somewhere. journalist David Frost. In a good drawing, even the faults have become virtues. Artist John French Sloan. There is perhaps no psychological skill more fundamental than resisting impulse. Daniel Goleman, author of Emotional Intelligence, 1995. Unusual irritability, which leads to quarrels, shortens life. Alexander Bogomolets, Russian physician. Man is as old as his connective tissue. Alexander Bogomolets. In order to lead the orchestra, you must first turn your back to the crowd. Mike Mentzer, bodybuilder. Neutral men are the devil's allies. Edwin Hubble Chapin, American clergyman, 1814 to 1880. All knowledge that is not the real product of observation or of consequences deduced from observation is entirely groundless and illusory. French naturalist Jean-Baptiste Lamarck, 1744 to 1829. Every sentence I utter must be understood not as an affirmation, but as a question. Physicist Niels Bohr. My mother was dead for 5 years before I realized I loved her very much. Playwright Lillian Hellman. One sits uncomfortably on a comfortable cushion. Lillian Hellman. I have to stand in it to see what's not allowed by it. Werner Erhard. It is the great arrogance of the present to forget the intelligence of the past. Filmmaker Ken Burns. A certain combination of incompetence and indifference can cause almost as much suffering as the most acute malevolence. Historian Bruce Catton. You can't fire a cannon from a canoe. Strength coach Charles Poliquin. Religion is to mysticism what popularization is to science. Henri Bergson, French philosopher. Grown men should not be having sex with prostitutes unless they are married to them. The Reverend Jerry Falwell. Jesus was the first American. Mr. Falwell. If I do not return to the pulpit this weekend, millions of people will go to hell. Reverend Jimmy Swaggart. I have sinned against you. Jimmy Swaggart. To think of failure is to fail. Bodybuilder Arthur Saxon. The look of being too deliberately dressed, with everything cautiously matching, always bores me. Babe Paley, socialite. We are not alone, meaning alone in the universe. Zechariah Sitchin, preeminent scholar of ancient cultures. You must be ready to give up even the most attractive ideas when experiment shows them to be wrong. Alessandro Volta, 1745, 1827. To labor is to pray. Motto of the Benedictine Order. I see filmmaking as a business and pity anyone who regards it as an art form. Herschel Gordon Lewis, producer of low-budget sexploitation films. An insult even to the most puerile and salacious of audiences. From a review in Variety regarding Lewis's 1963 film Belle, Bare and Beautiful. A blot on the American film industry. From the Los Angeles Times regarding the same film. The superior man understands what is right. The inferior man understands what will sell. Confucius. I always had a tremendous interest in big tits. Russ Meyer, sexploitation film producer. Faster, Pussycat, kill, kill. Title of a 1965 movie by Russ Meyer. Easy, baby, you're almost a fire hazard. A line from Faster, Pussycat, kill, kill. If a woman hasn't got a tiny streak of a harlot in her, she's a dry stick as a rule. D.H. Lawrence. Delete any footage which includes the idea that war is not altogether glamorous and noble. Joseph Breen, former Hollywood film censor. Wars frequently begin 10 years before the first shot is fired. Industrialist K.K.V. Casey of the DuPont Corporation. War is a Racket. Title of a book by Marine General Smedley Butler, 1935. In time of war, the loudest patriots are the greatest profiteers. August Bebel, from a speech at the Reichstag in 1870. I know not with what weapons World War III will be fought with, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. Einstein. Do you know how many times we've come close to World War III over a flock of geese on a computer screen? The Joker, Batman style, from the book The Killing Joke by Alan Moore. Hell, I'm a pacifist, but I always have a club behind my back. Smedley Butler, Marine Corps General. You can do everything with bayonets except sit on them. Camillo di Cavour, Italian statesman, 1810 to 1861. Some men are masters of cities but are enslaved by women. Democritus, 4th century B.C. Why are things as they are and not otherwise? Johann Kepler, 1671 to 1730. And by the way, that is one of the most brilliant questions I've ever heard in my life. Serious about that. Isn't it strange that we talk least about the things we think about most? Aviator Charles Lindbergh. He who angers you conquers you. Sister Elizabeth Kenny, 1886 to 1952. If women are allowed to vote, St. Paul would feel badly about it. Saying from the 18th century. The danger of censorship in cultural media increases in proportion to the degree to which one approaches the winning of a mass audience. James Farrell, American novelist. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, for there are plenty of others. Otto Rank, psychoanalyst, colleague of Freud. Are not the enemies made by truth better than the friends obtained by flattery? Akhenaten, Egyptian pharaoh, 14th century BC. The test of a vocation is the love of the drudgery it involves. Logan Purcell Smith, 1865 to 1946. Be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity. Horace Mann. They may attack me with an army of 600 syllogisms, and if I do not recant, they will proclaim me a heretic. Erasmus. If you can't answer a man's arguments, all is not lost. You can still call him vulgar names. Elbert Hubbard, American author who was aboard the Lusitania when it sank off the coast of Ireland. I have seized the light. I have arrested its flight. Louis Daguerre, one of the fathers of photography. Population, when unchecked, increases in a geometric ratio. Subsistence only increases in an arithmetic ratio. Economist Thomas Malthus, 1798, stating a belief that has driven social policy ever since. Malthus was wrong. Buckminster Fuller. The language of truth is unadorned and always simple. Marcellinus Ammianus, 4th century A.D. Suppression of truth is a false representation. Legal maxim. The law of things is that they who tamper with veracity, for whatever motive, are tampering with the vital force of human progress. John Morley, 1838 to 1923. The highest virtue is always against the law. Emerson. You've got more excuses than Carter has liver pills. Expression from the early 20th century. When a great moment knocks on the door of your life, it is often no louder than the beating of your heart, and it is very easy to miss it. Boris Pasternak. Most human beings today waste some 25 to 30 years of their lives before they break through the actual and conventional lies that surround them. Dancer Isadora Duncan, written in 1924. Rough work, iconoclasm, but the only way to get at the truth. Oliver Wendell Holmes, Sr. General propositions do not decide concrete cases. Oliver Wendell Holmes, Jr., Supreme Court Justice. I have constructed 3,000 different theories in connection with the electric light, yet in only 2 cases did my experiments prove the truth of any theory. Thomas Edison, spoken in 1878. This completes Astute Quotations, Part 15.